How often do you find that while your creativity is often a boon, your creativity can also cause your anxiety to start to spiral out of control? Now, do you know how to stop it when it happens? Would you like some ideas, perhaps, on how to get it to stop? I have been a professional in music and theater for over 25 years, and this absolutely happens to me, and I have had to come up with ways to slow down or stop this in order to stay sane. So I am going to share with you my top 10 ways to stop the spiraling right after this.
Seize the sword.
Welcome to Creativity Control. I am your host, Michael Gilboe, and I am here to help guide you through all those things that you may not have learned about in college. We deal with things like purpose, practice, promotion, and productivity here on this channel. So I am so glad you stopped by today because I love to be able to share these things with you that can help put you miles ahead of everyone else in your area. Today's topic, we're dealing in the category of purpose, where I kind of deal with all those mental and physical things that we deal with. And yep, we're talking about spiraling. And I imagine most of you feel this. I don't think I'm alone at all in this. I want to be clear, I am not a psychologist, and I am not talking about clinical depression or clinical anxiety, which you may suffer from too. I actually suffer from some clinical anxiety too, but I am talking about a very kind of special thing when something you're doing with your creative practice starts all this spiraling. First off, why do we call it spiraling? I was kind of wondering, and I have my own ideas, and I found a really interesting quote. David Mitchell's quote is, "Do spirals end or just get so tiny your eyes can't follow anymore?" And I think this is why spiraling is a good definition of what we're talking about. It starts off so wide that sometimes we don't even see or realize that we're falling into the spiral until it's gotten so tight that our minds just can't get out of that pattern. So the first step with these 10 ways is you need to identify you're in a spiral. And if you're like me, once you're in that little tight wedge, it's really hard to get out. So trying to identify when it's still at a pretty wide point needs to be at a priority. And that is the number one thing. Well, that's not my top 10 list, but that's the first thing, is try to identify as soon as possible when you're in the spiral. For me, more often than not, I start to get a headache. And at times this can catch me off guard because I work with a lot of audio too, so I can just think, well, I'm getting a headache. And before I know it, I'm locked into this kind of negativity and this anxiety associated with what I have been doing inevitably. So what starts your anxiety spiraling? Learn to identify that. Also, if you're liking this discussion, we're going to have lots of other great things. Hit subscribe down below, ring the bell so you don't miss anything. Also, why don't you comment down below your ways that you deal with getting yourself out of this spiral, or ways that you notice that you are starting to spiral. With that, it is time to lock into my top 10 ways to get out of a creative spiral, an anxiety spiral. Okay, number 1, wallow in it. I know this maybe sound odd, but usually we're fighting this creative spiral. We're arguing. We're saying, no, I'm better than that. I'm doing, no. I'm saying one way to get out is to just flat out and wallow in it. Let yourself feel awful. Just let it happen. And by not fighting it, sometimes I know I pass through that well a lot quicker, right? So number 2, suck it up and press on. Okay, if you know you're hitting that spiral, sometimes just working through it, just pushing yourself to go through it and get back into your work and not into your head can be a great way to avoid a spiral. Easier said than done, but once you can get the habit, sometimes that can work if you catch it soon enough. Okay, number 3, do something to break your routine. We all have kind of typical things we do, and maybe an artist's life or a creative person's life is a little bit more chaotic than normal, but we still fall into these routines. So look for something that can knock you out of that routine. Try a different game, go to a different website, read nonfiction if you read fiction all the time, read fiction if you read nonfiction, do some jumping jacks if you don't move a lot, whatever that may be. If you don't go out, go out. If you go out all the time, stay in. Break your routine. This can do some wonderful things for you. All right? Number 4, take care of your body and or your mind, depending on what your art form is. We need, our body and our mind and our emotions are all connected. So if you find yourself spiraling, and especially if you haven't been taking care of yourself, if you work a lot with your mind, if you're a writer, if you sit down and do a lot, get to the gym. If you don't have a gym membership, get outside, exercise, get an exercise mat and use a space. I've been in tiny spaces before, and you can still do a lot of work in like the space of a little mat on your floor. On the flip hand, maybe you work a lot with your body. Maybe you're a musical theater performer or a dancer or somebody who does work with your body a lot. Maybe you aren't taking care of your mind. Read, try something, study, take a class somewhere. But make sure you're taking care of all of those bases. 5, see if anything else in your life is out of balance. This kind of ties with that, but sometimes, because again, I'm talking about a creative spiral where deep down inside we're telling ourselves, oh, something about this isn't good enough. So we kind of start to spiral out of control. But sometimes that can be brought about by something else in our life. Are your finances crappy right now? As an artist, it can be. Are you having a problem with a relationship? Are you having a problem at your day job or your work? All of these things can influence. And it may sound obvious, but if your spiral is associated with your art, if you can identify that there's something else in your life that really is causing it, it might bring a sigh of relief and actually make you realize, no, this isn't about what I've been doing at all. Okay? So, number 6. Move on to something new. Sometimes our anxiety spiral because we're in a rut. We're working too hard. We've been trying to be a perfectionist and we're working to death on something that doesn't matter and we've lost all perspective. So get out there, get off of that project, start on something new. Come back to that other thing later or not at all. If it's gonna set you spiraling, maybe it's just not worth it. Number 7, get a full night's sleep. I know as artists, we can sometimes find our sleep habits are very poor. And you know what? We need it. We need to rest. And as I said, our bodies, everything's tied in. If we're not getting enough rest, it can cause us to spiral. So take advantage of the fact that sometimes that anxiety can tire you out, hit the sack early, get a good night's sleep, and wake up in the morning feeling a lot better. These next 2 I find kind of fun and a lot of different things. So number 8, yes, we're at 8. Look at bad art. We all have those artists or somebody creative who are successful and we're like, those people are garbage. They're so awful. They're hacks. How do they do well? Well, take this moment to really explore all those things. Because you know what? You're probably spiraling over something that's not even worth it. It's not going to affect your success. You can still have success. We're poor judges of what's good. And reminding ourselves of all the other people that have succeeded that we don't think deserve it, if our mind is being particularly punitive on us and telling us we don't deserve it, well, maybe you do. Number 9, as we're getting close, purposely make bad art. I know it sounds odd, but again, sometimes we get so tied up in trying to be very precious about what we do that we lose that focus. It can be amazingly fun and a humongous stress reliever to just not give a shit and be bad. Nothing can be more joyous at times. And that can help kick you out and maybe make you realize that what you were spinning out over before is actually just fine. And my last one, my number 10 way to break out of the anxiety spiral. This one isn't necessarily an instant one. You have to cultivate it. But I always think it helps to have another creative outlet. I know it sounds odd. We love what we do, whether we're a painter or we're a musician or we're a songwriter or an actor. That's what we love most. And it is both our vocation and our avocation. And sometimes that is the problem. Having something else that you do on the side that is still a creative outlet is so wonderful. I know relaxing's not the same. I like reading, but it's not a creative thing for me. I've always had the benefit back and forth. If my career is more focusing on music, then doing stuff theatrically is, more of my side outlet. When I've been working, like especially this past 10 years, more as a theater professor, music has been my side creative outlet. But develop something. Develop, knitting or needlepoint or maybe novel writing, and it's okay if you're not good at it. In fact, that's kind of the point. Find something that is not your vocation so that it can be the creative stress relief when your creative job, starts pushing you over the edge. Well, I hope those 10 things helped you out. I want to share with you a couple things that some people in our group shared. We have a group on Facebook that's a private group, so it can't be shared or your friends don't see, but we can kind of be honest with each other about what we're dealing with and not have to put up that Facebook front of everything's awesome. Okay, and that's Creativity Control. So just search for the group, Creativity Control, ask to be invited in. I like running some of these topics before I put them up. Gets me feedback. So a few things some of the people in the group said they do is they like to verbalize specifically their thoughts and feelings of what's happening with their anxiety. Look at pictures of animals, nature, fun, relaxing things. A lot of them talk to their spouses. Another one is make a to-do list. Maybe that anxiety is spiraling just because you don't know what's coming on. We'll definitely be dealing with this kind of thing and other things, especially dealing with productivity as I tie that in. Another person likes to go to a dark, quiet room or nature to just cut off for a while. So those are some other good ideas. Again, and comment. Tell us some of yours below. So even with this, I have an assignment for you. We got an assignment every time. So, and this one is pretty simple. I've kind of said it a few times. But it's a two-part assignment. One, if you can share this below or just write this down in your journal. Try to think about what at least one identifying sign that you can catch that you're maybe at the beginning of a spiral. And number two, write down something that you are going to try right away the next time you identify that thing is happening. Okay? So write that down in your journal. What? You don't journal? You should be, and I'll talk to you about it why. And in fact, that episode's coming up very quickly under our concepts section. So with all that said, I am really glad you stopped by. I hope you, again, take a moment to subscribe. Tell a friend about this, because if you get somebody else on your journey and you make each other accountable, you can improve what you're doing so much faster. So tell a friend for you. All right, until next time, I'm Michael Gilboe, Creativity Control, and stay creative.